Good week, everyone. Shavua Tov, and good morning, everyone. And this week should be the last week, the last day, last minute in Gullus, and the first minute in a normal situation, to have normal leave, have normal. Here we go. This week's Torah portion is sometimes it's double portion, but Bahar B'chukotai, but this year it's not. This year it's separate, two separate, Bahar B'chukotai. And it starts off with the laws of Shemitah. Shemitah is a law for farmers. It's a law for farmers and also for people who eat the food from the farmers, but mainly it's an agricultural law. And it is that on the Shemitah, you're not allowed to work on the Shemitah year. Every 7 years is a Shemitah year. And you're not allowed to work on that year. And in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there used to be after every 49 years, you wouldn't work on the 49th and the 50th year. That was the Jubilee, the Yubel year. Okay, so it says interesting thing that you're not supposed to work on the 7th year. Okay, now if you don't work on the 7th year, you got a problem. Because you don't work on the land on the 7th year, so everybody needs food. And if you don't work on the 7th year, so let's say you eat all the food from the 6th year, but the 7th year won't produce anything for the next year, for the year afterwards. So what are you going to eat? And not only that, you didn't plant right in that year. So it ends up that you're going to have a lack of food for a few years until you catch up, right? So God says, don't worry about it, you won't. So this is a strange law for of course, it's relevant also to people who are not farmers, namely the produce. Oh, the produce that you have in the markets, was it produce as a result of the farmer doing a sin and working on the 7th year? Maybe the farmer plowed his fields on the 7th year and he ignored all the prohibitions, and he produced food and then he sold it. You can't tell the difference between an apple that was grown on the 7th year or a 6th year. Let me turn this off. Somebody has their thing on. 1 minute. Here we go. Okay, is that you're good? Thank you. So that's the law. Okay, how does this start off? It says, Ki Tavo, God is talking to Moses in Mount Sinai, in the desert, right? The desert, before they come into the land of Israel. Moshe didn't come into the land of Israel. Ki Tavo el ha'aretz, when you come to the land that I'm giving you. Ki Tavo el ha'aretz asher. One second, my pointer, here we go. When you come to the land that I'm giving you, says to Moses. Then when the first year you come in, then don't work on the land. Then it says 6 years you should work, which that's of course not true. I mean, you can't let the land rest. It has to rest from something. You didn't do anything. But that seems to be what it says in the Torah, that you shouldn't work the land the first year you get there. Okay, so here we go. V'hinei, mashmut, the simple meaning, let me make this a bit bigger here. The simple meaning of this is, bigger. The simple meaning of the sentence is, immediately when you Jews come into the land of Israel, right, with Joshua, with Yoshua, come to the land of Israel, Vashavsa, then the land should rest. In other words, don't work on the land. Kodem she'atchilu sheshanim, before the 6 years even begin. Before you start to work, first year don't do anything, right? And that's not so. That certainly is not so. The fact is they could begin working immediately. I mean, you can't rest from work. Can't let the land rest from work unless you worked. That's it. But why does the Torah seem to say opposite? I mean, this is a very common in the Torah. In fact, basically, you can't understand anything in the Torah if you don't have a proper explanation. The Torah begs to be explained. That's the idea of what the rabbis are there for. And there are certain laws that God just told Moses on Mount Sinai, and they're just passed down from generation to generation that the rabbis do. But the Torah, every letter and every word of the Torah is true, but you have to get the truth out of it. And that takes a person who's genuinely interested in what the Torah, what God really has to say, not just what's comfortable or what seems to him to be right. That's why in the Talmud, there's all these arguments, Talmud and the Mishnah, because these are great holy men. Almost all of them had the power to raise the dead, it says. And you see that they have ideas and that sometimes their ideas are not accepted. It says that all their ideas are correct because they were all holy, but they're correct because God wanted them and to have these arguments, to have these arguments. And the reason is that you should know that if these great people, it's in Ediot, it's a Mishnah, if these great people had ideas and they were willing to admit that their ideas are not the best ideas, the most practical, whatever, they're not exactly what God wants. So how much more so you? So it's good. You want to have ideas in the Torah and, make up your own things. That's, 100%, that's okay. But don't take it seriously. Don't take the ideas seriously. Look in the books and see if you're right or not. Right? Look in the books and say, okay, so here we go. That's what it says. So here's a good example. It says in the Torah that God said to Moses, immediately when you come to the land of Israel, let the land rest. And then 6 years you should work, which is not the law. But why does God say it that way? The Yuvan, we can understand, Bahaktim, there must be some message over here that God is trying to give to us. Yuvan, Bahaktim, we can understand, Bira Katuv, what it says in the Song of Songs by King Solomon. Pitchili, open up for me, Achoti Rayoti. Open up for me, my sister, my beloved. Who's saying this? King Solomon said it in the book Song of Songs. Who is talking over here? Who is King Solomon saying, open up to me, my sister, my beloved? Well, he's not. King Solomon is just quoting God. And God is saying this to the Jewish people. Perish Sha'omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, that God says, L'Knesset Yisrael. So we can see in the first 4 lines over here that of this, first of all, that God gave the land of Israel to the Jews. It says, when you come to the land that I promised you, right? The land is the land, when you come to the land that I'm giving to you, God says. So you see the number 1. Number 2, the Jews have to work. You got to work on the land. Now we're seeing over here that God speaks to the Jewish people. How does he speak to the Jewish people? What does he speaks to their souls? The souls of the Jews. The souls of the Jews are different than everybody else. And God has this special relationship with the Jews. God has a special relationship with everybody. He's creating everybody. But the Jews have a special responsibilities that nobody else has. And most of that's the commandments, the Torah, right? If a non-Jew, all the non-Jews in the world come to the land of Israel, they don't have to keep the 7th year, to not work on the 7th year. Most of the commandments of the Torah is only for the Jews. Even the 10 commandments, keeping Shabbat, is only for Jews. Non-Jews are not supposed to keep Shabbat. Most of the laws of the Torah, don't eat blood, don't this. This is only for Jews. The marital laws, and etc. There are what's called 7 Noahide commandments that also apply to non-Jews, right? Non-Jews is also forbidden to take somebody else's wife, homosexuality, to worship idols, right? To steal, to lie, to kill. It's also forbidden. That's 7 Noahide commandments. It comes also from the Torah. But most of the Torah is only for the Jews. So here we go. God says that King Solomon wrote a book called the Song of Songs, which if you haven't read it, you should read it. And as I've said so many times, if you read it and you understand it, then you're wrong, because there's no simple meaning. Who would dream that it's a book called the love song between God and the Jews and Jews and God? So God has this special love relationship with the Jewish people. Sometimes it's a love like a brother and a sister. Sometimes it's a love like a husband and a wife. Love. Upirish Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, that God says to the Jewish people, Pitchili, open up to me. Pitchili, open up for me, my sister, my bride, my beloved. God is saying to the Jews, hello, open up for me. In order that you should realize that you are my sister and my beloved. That the Jewish people should realize who they are. which that I hope is what's going on now. I mean, in the world, there's this anti-Semitism going on, and a lot of the Jews are participating in it. That they're, they if they weren't my brothers, I would laugh more. But and the Jews are into why? Because the Jews don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They don't know why they're being. And so the non-Jews hate them. It's God knocking. Hello, you know why these people hate you? No, well, they don't know either. They don't know either because you have a special relationship with me and they don't like me. That's knocking. You should know you are open up, you Jewish people, you are my sister. Am Yisrael. Every Jew is a sister of God. It's a beloved of God. We already know that Jews are called the son of God, the servants of God. Avodai, they're my servant. All these special relationship. Okay, so here let's get into these two really. The Jews are called the sister, and they're also called the beloved of God, the wife, if you want. Hagam, even though the Knesset Israel, even though the Jewish people are usually called Bezeh, they're usually called by this name, namely what? That the Jewish people are the sister bride. That's what King Solomon is calling them. Nevertheless, Pamim Shu Bidgalo, sometimes it's revealed, and sometimes it's covered. Therefore, it says open up. To take off the blocking. You see, let's take today. I mean, you see like these the protests on campus, right? You see Jews against what is it? Against the Israel. Jews against Israel. Jews for Palestine. Jews for this. So basically, it's Jews against Jews. But you see that they're Jews, and they're proud of the fact that they're Jews. They won't deny that they're Jews. It's very important for them to be Jews. And if a person like me with a beard insists to come over and say, you people are not good, they say, well, who says you're a good Jew? Who says you're a good Jew? They're very jealous of their identity, being a Jew. What's the big deal being a Jew? And that's what it means, my sister, my bride. The Jews have this special relationship with God. They don't even know it, but it's there. It's no other nation will do a thing like that. Take a person from Japan, 5 generations out of Japan, say something bad about the Japanese, you won't care. You won't care what the difference does it make, right? He's not I'm an American. Hagam, even though the Knesset Israel, you can have a calm conversation with them. Why are you talking against the Japanese? What do you got against them, right? You say something about the Jews, he gets all excited. Right? Why is that? Why is that? Because every single Jew has this identity, but the fact is that most of the time it's concealed. He doesn't know he's a Jew, doesn't care he's a Jew, doesn't until you dirty Jew, all of a sudden wakes up. Hagam, even though the Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people are always called by the name, but this is my sister, my bride, but nevertheless, sometimes it's revealed and sometimes it's covered. And therefore, Omar Pitchi, therefore, God says, please open up, remove the covering and the concealment in order that this should be revealed. You Jewish people, you're proud that you're a Jew. Let's discover what it means to be a Jew. What does it mean? Right? What does it mean to be a Jew? It's not what the reform movement says and not the conservative movement says. It's not what it is. They're also proud that they're Jews and they're equal Jews to every other Jew, just like Moses. But it's not revealed what the Judaism is. What is this thing? Lahavin, understand, Mahus, what is these two levels that we're a sister of God and we're the beloved of God? And when it's revealed, how can we reveal this? And what exactly is covering it over that covers it over? What covers it over? Who we are. The whole idea of what my sister is. What do you mean the Jews are the sister of God? Here we go. Let's reveal it, right? Now, of course, what the Rebbe is talking about, this is not a theoretical or metaphorical or something poetic, idea what the Jews are. This is active. The Rebbe is knocking on our door. He's knocking on our soul. And he's saying, wake up, I want to tell you who you are. If you're a Jew. But what's the special thing about the Jews? The Jews have a special obligation to fix up the whole world, to make the world healthy, to show how precious life is, to show how precious every moment is, that every human being has a responsibility. Every human being is chosen. He's being created, every human being. That's the job of the Jews, to tell all the Jewish people, to tell all the nations this, to all the world. Okay, so the Jews are called my sister. Ready? Let's go. First of all, the Jews have to wake it up in themselves. The Jews are called my sister. What does this mean? Lashon ichui. This is the language of ichui Alexandria. It's a way, if a person tears his garments, because you can sew it up, it's a way of uniting. Ichui means to unite. To unite. Sheba Gemor and the Gemor Shuv Lashon Chibur, joining. Shemachaber state the word, you join two things together, liot lachadim, to be one. Kaguf echad, like one, one unit, like very good sewing, something that's sewed very, very professionally. B'kachu al derech mashal, so it is the idea of the love, the natural love which is in the souls of every Jew, mimokr chutzvah, from the place from which they are taken, the essence of the Jewish soul, that every Jew is a portion of God from above, really, in this physical body, really. Or there's another way of saying it, a portion of God, really, a real, true portion of God. Every single Jew, that's what it means, the Jews are the sons of God here. Now we're saying the sister. Okay, so here we're saying, okay, we're going to see that it also means simple meaning, sister. We're going to see in a moment. They're on the same level, so to speak. We'll see. Okay, but now what we mean is, don't take it literally. Achoti doesn't mean my sister. It means it means you are joined to me. My joining, you are joined. Miucharim, they are joined, but tachlis yichud, with the ultimate unity, b'or ein sof baruch hu mamash. That's this mysterious thing that Jews are not willing to deny their Judaism. Rarely. They're not willing to deny that. And if they do it just externally. But internally, they're very, right. It used to be. It's not that anymore. I haven't seen it. That Israelis would deny. They say, I'm not a Jew. They would say, I'm not Jewish. Right? Leave me alone. I'm not Jewish. Very rare. Americans, I mean, I've never seen it before, I've never seen it. They say, no, I don't would you like to put on tefillin and leave me alone? I'm sorry, I'm not interested right now. But they won't say I'm not Jewish. How do I know this? Because if you'd say, would you like to put on tefillin, I'm not Jewish, and they'll walk away and you hear them speaking Hebrew. Okay, but that's rare. I don't even know if it is anymore. I think, especially now with this war, everything has really, really changed, really drastically changed. People are starting to realize that the reason that all these young people were killed was only because they're Jewish. No other reason whatsoever. Only because they didn't act like Jews. They didn't identify with being Jews. Only because they're Jewish, they got killed. Nothing to do with Hebrew, nothing to do with their beliefs, their land, their religion. So that the fact that they're Jews. So if so, Gamla also below, after we've created, the Jewish people are created in the world, from nothing to something, like everything else in the world. Vayordu mata, and the Jewish soul became descended below to be put into a body and into a lively soul. So we're apparently like everybody else. Zosim midat tzadikim. This is it is only the tzadikim, the totally righteous Jews, mitzad nefesh elokis, from their godly soul that's in them, chashkam, their desire, but chukatam, and their lust is to be united with God. So there are people which are called tzaddikim, and they never lose this true Jewish identity. What is true Jewish identity? That they're aware that their whole being and that their whole, how do you say, the identity, can't think of a better word, is from God. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. Other Jews, it's not a mystery, right? Are you a Jew? Yeah, I'm a Jew, but I don't believe in it. I'm not. I mean, my parents were Jewish. I'm not Jewish. Right? I was told I'm Jewish. Right? It's not an exciting thing for them. It's not a mystery. It's a general principle in life that when life loses its mystery, then it opens the door to depression or to aggression or to lust or something like that. Life is an amazing mystery. Every moment of life is a mystery. Every human being is like an how do you say a gift and an opportunity. You meet somebody, it's a new thing. That's the way it's supposed to be. But when life loses its mystery, so it's no big. There's people that are called tzaddikim, and these tzaddikim, every instant of life is an amazing mystery and gift to them. To the point where even, there's tzaddikim that even when they were suffering, and that's what it means, all Jews are tzaddikim. Jews usually, God forbid, when they're killed because they're Jews, they don't regret being Jewish. I remember I heard Rabbi Manis Friedman speak. He's a very good speaker. And he said that all the books that were ever written that he read by the Holocaust survivors, no one ever said that they heard someone say that they regret being Jewish in the camps, and even though they were suffering only because they were Jewish. In other words, somehow or other, this mystery starts to become revealed. Tzaddikim are people that every instant of their life, no matter what they do, all the time, life is this amazing mystery, and they know that God is infinitely good, and they feel it. They feel it's good. And that's this idea of achoti, being connected. The nefesh elokis is because of the godly soul, which is inside of them. Chashkam, their desire is to be unified with God and to be totally united with Him. The kalot nefesh, to be expiring to God. They're so appreciative of God, mamish me from the depth of the heart. The kol yamein, on all their days, hein bebitul, they are totally surrendered. Machmas hateva, because of the nature of their soul. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but sometimes there's people. Sometimes a person does something for someone, very good for free, and the other person that receives is tremendously grateful. Right, tremendous. You're the one that's been calling up our Father every day and coming and visiting him. You're the one that's been sending us these, food gifts. That's you. You're the one. Oh, the family wants to kiss you, hug you. You're like, it's so great, so grateful. Thank you so much. This is him. Oh, this is Mr. What is Grace. You're the, oh, thank you. We didn't know who you are. You don't know what you've done for us. Well, the fact is, these tzaddikim are people that feel this way to God all the time. Thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for giving me responsibility. Thank you. They just want they don't want to hug God, do whatever they can. That's their nature. They don't have to think about it at all. To arouse this love. Right. Like it says, like it says, if I remember you on my bed, in the morning, whatever, I will think about you, etc. 1 second. Right, King David. It's a very interesting thing to read the Psalms. Read the books of Psalms. Book of Psalms is very, very amazing. You have to think about what you're reading a little bit. First of all, you have to translate the words. The words are not so easy, the Psalms. But when you do translate, you can get in English. And you start reading it, you start to realize what is going on. I mean, King David had so many problems, and everybody wanted to kill him. And he's writing about this in his book, about how they wanted to kill him, and he can't sleep at night, and he has to wander around, and he's got more enemies than he's got hairs on his head, and they're hating him for no reason, and please God save me, please God help me, all this stuff. And then other times he's praising God, thank you for God, and other times he's tremendously happy. Oh, I'm so grateful to you, God, there's nothing. And this is one, I remember you all the time, God, I think about you. Because even it says, we say in Shema Yisrael, when you're sitting in your home, when you're walking in the way, when you lay down, when you wake up, you should always be thinking about God. This is Shema Yisrael, we say twice a day. This is like ahava ach va'achot. That's why is it called a brother and a sister? Because a brother and a sister, so we said one reason is achva means to be connected. But here's another one. A brother and a sister, their love is kavua v'natua. You can't get divorced from your sister. The sister is always a sister. Sister is always a sister. It could be that you don't act properly together. Nowadays, everything is crazy. It could be that a brother does things or a sister does things, they cheat, they lie to each other, and so that covers over the love. But the nature of things is that a brother and a sister have a natural love, right? Natural love. Now society is all tremendously confused, but brother and sister have a natural love. Natua me'atzma, from itself, but tevatol doesn't, in their nature of their birth, belishu misoros, without any arousal at all. This is your sister. There's a lot of times Holocaust survivors that have been separated and they unite right after years. This is your sister. They've been separated for 50 years. 50 years, right? And they unite. They were separated when they were 15. One was 13. They've been separated. One was now 65, 163. And they don't look at the same. They don't talk the same. All of a sudden, this is my sister. They kissed. You can't pull them apart. You can't pull them apart. They don't know. They're crying. This is it. They're a brother and a sister. Lishumi sorrows. That's a natural love without any. You don't have to think about it at all. You have to recognize that this is your sister, right? But after you're told that, then all of a sudden, this is true love. Emet, from the point of truth, lamito. She'ein hefsek, it never stops, but omedet la'ad, and is forever. Okay, this is, we've been taught by Freud and all these others, very sick people, that there's nothing genuine, right? All these people, Adler and all these guys, there's nothing is genuine. Everything is done for some psychological reason or because you're forced to or an ulterior motive or something like that. But that's not so. This is a very, very, very disastrous and terrible lie that's been foisted on us for the last who knows what, right? And especially from Freud and all those people that they were people that they're trying to analyze a person like a machine and say that a person is just a machine and you can manipulate a person, but it's not so. There are things that are genuine. That's a big point that Hasidut wants to bring, that Judaism wants to bring, that true life wants to bring, that there are things that are genuine in the world. And that you can do things truly with no ulterior motive. That's why in the 5 books of Moses, it doesn't talk about heaven or hell. There is heaven and hell, but you don't want to serve God for any ulterior motive. In other words, think, what am I going to get out of the whole business? And that's what's called genuine love of God. Genuine love of God. When a brother sees a sister that he hasn't seen for whatever it is, and true love, there is such a thing as true love between mother and children, father and children, children and father, parents, siblings. Which is not the case when there is not this love in the heart of a person, only in certain times when it's aroused, like for instance the time of Shema Yisrael, when you direct your mind to these ideas and you actually start to believe them. And again, this is only perceived by faith. By faith, we can't understand what God is, but and sometimes faith can be very misleading. But nevertheless, faith is the organ of perception, if you want to call it, that perceives God. You perceive colors with your eyes and you hear sounds with your ears and you taste with your tongue. You can't taste with your eyes or hear with your tongue. You can't. The same thing, God cannot be perceived by intellect. God cannot be perceived. God can only be perceived by your heart. By your heart. But your intellect can be directed to enhance that. So that's what we're talking about here. A person's intellect, you can start thinking about God, thinking what God is, and then that can open up your heart. And that's what happens when you say you should love God. That's love. You should love God with all of your heart and all of your mind. That love is there, even though it might seem to be impossible. What are you talking about? This is just for tzaddikim, says the Rebbe, and every Jew for sure it's there. And afterward, but what happens? You think about it. You can come to love God, but afterwards, cholefes voveres, it goes away. Ein ha'avazu, this love then is not called true love. True love. Why? Because it comes from your thinking, and it has to be. What do you truly love? You love yourself. That's natural. Everybody loves himself, and that's not called true love either. No. I mean, you think about it, the people that have they run around these movie stars, Hollywood, whatever. So these people that are rich, they can have any pleasure that they want. Any pleasure they want, the nicest cars and the nicest everything. You don't have to go into details. And they're not happy. They're not happy. The ones that are happy are the people that are married and they have normal families. Right? They have normal families, don't take drugs. Maybe they believe in God. But the people that are, right, almost certainly they believe in God to some degree, where maybe they don't belong to any particular religion, but that's what's called truth. But the physical things that you do in the world, as fun as they are, and you go to big rave parties or whatever, you take all sorts of drugs, you have all sorts of money, you have all of this, but those things they don't touch the soul. They don't touch they can't fill up the emptiness of that the soul needs. The soul needs. And so what fills up the soul? Love, but it has to be true love. That a person loves to eat fish, or he loves to be, called, he loves to win an Oscar, who knows what it is, to get attention, everybody claps for him, right? That person loves that, but that's false because it just goes away. But loving God is true because that's who you are. That's your soul. You're a gift. Every instant of your life is a gift from God. So that's your life. What about God Himself? So that's called true truth. Hainu minekudas emes, from the inner point of your heart. But if it's only temporary, then it's called what's called sfat emes. It's called the edge of truth. Sfat lafiv. This is like the edge of a garment. Shu imra shesoviv abeged. This is like the hem, which is around the garment. Namely, sfat abeged, the end of. So you're touching on the truth. You're touching on the truth. Now, this you see, there's a lot of these religions where the people realize how good God is, but in order to get to God, they think they have to worship a person or worship what they call a person God, whatever it is. Okay, but all these things are sort of, they're in the right direction. Let's say they're in the right direction. At least they're pointing to some superior being. Judaism is saying this superior being is your creator. If you're not praying to your creator, then that's called idolatry. You have to pray to your creator. So in order to come to this love, you have to think, am I really being created? I'm being really created. I mean, that's really amazing. If someone would give me $1 million, I would really like that person. If someone would save my life, I would like that. God Himself is giving me my life every instant, brand new. My eyes, my ears, my nose, my soul. That's enough of a basic reason to love God. But the problem is we don't feel that until there's even people that write books about it, that there's no such thing as God and we're not being created and you don't know what we're talking about. There's no such thing, right? Which is they're very justified in saying so, because you have to really think about it. And after you do think, you still have to activate what's called your faith. Realize it's above understanding. But nevertheless, you can get to the edge of this faith, to the seashore. And that itself is a very inspiring experience. You realize who's creating me? I'm being created. But it doesn't last. Similarly, al derech mashal, in a way, like we said in an example, this love, we just finished saying that there's the edge of a garment. So it says this love that comes because you're aroused by thought is called the rim of truth. It's called just the edge. Because just the beginning of truth, that you begin to feel a little bit that while I'm being created, God is not this religious character that sits and He judges you, if you're going to go to heaven or hell. That also is true. But that's not the main aspect of God that causes us to love God. Loving God is that God is creating us. He's our life. And even more, He's our soul. And even more, He's the source of our soul. That's what's called true. And even more, the biggest gift, we've said this so many times, that God gives us is responsibility. We're here in the world for a reason. And every second is this responsibility to be honest, to be kind, to be helpful. It's true when you think about God and you get excited. This is called touching emet, but it's not really true truth. Because if it was true truth, you realize that God is creating you all the time. It's not just, once in a while, thanks. You close the door. And therefore, Omer B'Zohar, it says in the Zohar, Sfat emet tikon la'ad. That what it says in, it says the edge of truth, it will be established forever. Sfat emet. Konan la'ad, it doesn't say that it is, it is, how do you say, permanent forever. It doesn't say. It just says it's fixed up forever. It says, Korov Hashem l'korov. What does it mean fixed up? You're touching something that is eternal, but you aren't really partaking of it. right? You feel that I have a creator, but there's me. I'm the main thing. And there's also God. And then the more you think about it, you realize, oh, well, 1 second, it's not so. All there is God. But that feeling you have is all there is Hashem, and that Hashem is infinitely good is for a fleeting second. And it doesn't really come into all of your heart, and it's just a little bit. This, by the way, when do you do all this? This is in the time of prayer. That's the idea, supposed to be the idea of Jewish prayer. When you pray to God, Shema Yisrael. And by the way, this sentence, Shema Yisrael, the Chida, he was the pupil of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, he said that non-Jews should say it also. Listen, Israel, God is our God and God is one. And that's the job of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are public servants. We're to bring the whole world to feel, there's only one God. He's creating everybody. So the same God that's creating the Jews is creating everybody. But the Jews have a special appreciation of this, and they have a special obligation to tell everybody about this. And that's what it means. God is close to all those who call him, in truth. Be'emet daika. Dahainu, what does it mean? Be'nekudat emet, for the inner point of truth in your soul. Below sfat emet, and it's not just you're calling to God because you have a flat tire or something like that, or someone is sick and you're calling. That's also okay. It's also calling to God, but that's not going to get you aroused to love, to feel this love that God is your sister, your love, or you're the sister, God is your brother. To feel this love. Because you always have to arouse this love. Naturally, you love yourself. In order to arouse this love for God once in a while, this is not yet your nature. From the inside of your heart, really. It's something like there's, I took a lot of classes about addictions. I guess maybe this is alcoholics, but it could be everybody. I'm not, I never really counseled anybody with this. But they say that a person that's an alcoholic is always an alcoholic, and he has to really watch out for even coming close. He can never take it for granted that he's finished with it. No matter how much he hates it, he takes a little drink. So and he knows that taking a drink, he knows that getting drunk is bad. And he knows it gets him into trouble. And that's why he goes to Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. And they talk about it in groups and everything, and you have to be, they write about it and this, but he always has to be aware of it. And even if he goes there was one story that a fellow, he writes that he was 25 years, he became an alcoholic, and he lost his family, lost his business, lost everything, and he got out of it, and he became sober, and he went to university, he became a psychiatrist, and he even opened up a center for rehabilitation for this, and at a grand opening of one of the new buildings that he made, new branches that he made, was a grand opening, and he took a little, how to say l'chaim, a toast. And he said he took one little drink, and that was it. He was back on it, and he couldn't stop drinking, and he felt so miserable if he didn't have it, and he had to go through the whole thing again. Okay, that's the same. Why? Because the love, the feeling that he had for pleasure that he got from drinking was infinitely greater than any other pleasure that he could have. Took care of all of his problems. Of course, in fact, it just added another problem. But while he was drunk, imagine, confused himself. The same thing is with us, that we're addicted to our own private lives, and we're afraid of anything that seems to endanger us, and we want something that seems to give us pleasure, and people that can't get off of their cellular phones and all this stuff. Right, because we're addicted to having our own little pleasures, our own little feelings, and all this, right? We can't get out of it. But if a person sits and thinks about God, then he can start to think, and he removes his mind from all the confusion of the world. Then, if he really, really thinks about it and really starts, then he can get this little feeling: wow, I'm being created. God is creating me right now. God is infinitely great. God is creating everything. But he doesn't get pleasure from that like he gets from pleasure from watching a movie and whatever, Netflix or whatever they have. I have to admit, I never watched the movie on Netflix, but I know there is such a thing. The pleasure that you get from this, you can't get, right? So, but you have to think about it. So therefore, it's a matter of love. It's a matter of love. Do you love yourself, or do you love God? If you love yourself, you don't want to change. If you really love God, you also don't want to change. You want to love God, but loving God means that everything you do, everything you say, everything you are is just a big gift from God. And especially, like you say, your responsibility to the Creator every moment. So that's called loving God because of your deep thinking. Is like the alcoholic that stops, lives a normal life because he thinks about it. He has to think about it. I have to live a normal life. I have to keep away from the drugs. I have to give it. So therefore, because is a deeper love he has for himself, so he has to always work on it. That's called eskafia, forcing yourself. But nevertheless, the Rebbe is trying to tell us we must think, contemplate about God. And if nothing comes out of it, at least you tried. And the next time it'll be a little bit more acceptable that there's what to think about. But this is called the edge of truth. At least at that time, a person does arouse this love from the inner point of his heart. He was talking about the Jews, each person according to his ability. Or after a person finishes praying and he has thought about God, Nisha, there is a little trace in his mind about God, mitorer ruach nediva, then all of a sudden he has a spirit inside of him to love God even more. There's a little bit of a residue. That it says, if I remember you on my bed, etc., etc., etc. Let's go a little bit further over here. Where does this end? 1 minute. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. So that's the idea of, this is actually pretty interesting, but where did I go to over here? All right, let's just, here it is. Vasiba, the reason that prevents this love of God from being constant and from going to the essence of your heart, really. Why? Because this, what's hiding over this love of God is really everywhere, and He's creating this. Why don't we feel it? Why don't we feel how precious God is in this? The appreciation of God. Why don't we feel it? Because this love is concealed inside of our desire for physical things. Is from our natural soul, which is from thick-spirited, a chofef that conceals over the power of this love. And you can give a simple example. God helps us with this tremendously. But the Jewish people, for instance, they have this thing about kosher food. Food that's kosher. What does it mean, kosher food? If you have a cow, and that cow was not slaughtered properly, it has to be slaughtered. It wasn't slaughtered properly, right? It was roadkill, or the person who slaughtered it chopped its head off or something like that. Okay, so that cow is forbidden. You can't eat it. Can't eat it. It's forbidden to eat. It's just as forbidden as pork. Can't eat it. But you can't tell the difference, and it doesn't look any different whatsoever. It's just that, and it'll satisfy you. And it could be cooked better, a not kosher steak, than a kosher steak. One was cooked by some great chef, and the other one was cooked by me. So the great chef, he knows how to make this food tasty. You can't stop eating. When you're packed, your stomach is bulging, you want another bite. It's just so tasty, right? And mine is a little bit hard and a little bit this, and it's lacking this, and that, but mine is kosher and the other person's not kosher. So you put it in front of a Jew. Which one would you like to eat? And the guy says, man, I'm really hungry, and this is the best chef in the world. Where did you get this meat from? I got it from, it's not kosher. I'm not going to eat it. So what happens over here? You get pleasure from the steak, but somehow or other, you don't want this pleasure. I don't want the pleasure from this. It's not kosher. You get more pleasure eating a kosher steak. It's a little bit hard. It's not spiced enough. It's not cooked properly. But, it'll satisfy me. It's okay. But at least it's kosher. He gets pleasure from the fact that it's kosher. This is so happy. No, he doesn't get pleasure in the fact that it's kosher, right? But it does give him some sort of a weird satisfaction, a wholesomeness that, I'm not going to break my Judaism by eating not kosher food. This gives him a satisfaction. So this is a little bit of an example here we have of life in general. In life in general, are you living life according to what you want, what makes you feel good? Or are you living your life according to what makes the essence of your soul feel good? Jew, we're talking about a Jew, to do what God wants. No, I'll do what God wants. Well, the fact is that to do what God wants is a tremendous pleasure. You feel that pleasure? No. Think about it. You should think about it. When you eat a steak, what do you get? You get filled up. It gives you life. When you eat a kosher steak, then you're actually doing what God wants. Of course, it's not a positive commandment to eat a kosher steak, but it's a negative commandment not to eat not kosher. But nevertheless, you still are withholding yourself. You're doing what God wants. And do you love God? Not particularly. Think about it. This God that tells you not to eat, he's creating you. He's giving you life. He's giving your eyes to see. He's giving your ears to hear. He's creating the whole world. He's creating all the people, right? That's what God does. What about what God is? If he can do this, think about it. Good. Start thinking about it. Then it doesn't even enter into your possibility to eat a not kosher steak. It's like disgusting to you. Why would I want to do a thing like that? Why would I possibly want to go against God? That's ridiculous. So it says there's this, therefore you have all sorts of different levels. Shows kama mini levushim, all sorts of different garments that conceal over your love. Kafi, a small child, small way, a big person, a big way. You have to remove these garments. Right? A little child, he might get, angry because of you take away his popsicle stick or something like that. An old person, take away a popsicle stick. What do I care? If he loses his $1,000, no big deal. $10,000, no, it's a little bit. If somebody calls him an idiot, ooh, then he gets mad. Then that's it. You call it. Other people, they don't care if you call me an idiot. It doesn't make any difference. But if you if you don't laugh at my joke, right, something like that. But there's all sorts of different egotism that covers over people. Right? Some people, they can't take their mind off of certain pleasures that they get. They can't take their mind off of it. Why not? Why not? I don't know. It just makes me feel good. So that covers over your essential love of your creator. That's what the rabbis say. A person that's given over to his desires, he can't live. It's just God says, you're not leaving a place for me. At the mikzeh, you have to open up the covering, like a person that wants to open up a hole in a wall that separates between him and his friend, whatever. You have to break the wall down until you make a little place that's open. Also, that's what we have to do. And we want to see this love that is there already in your heart. If you want it to be revealed and you want to get into the essence of your heart to see, and feel this love, so you have to somehow break your egotism, break your selfishness, and remove your thickness, crassness, your thick skin that makes you insensitive, and the desires for physical things that make you insensitive to your own soul. And this we're going to talk about tomorrow to reveal what it means that we are the brothers and sisters of God. As we'll talk about more. What's this got to do with the seventh year? We'll talk about that also. Now let us do the Yom Yom. 1 minute.